Welcome to the Deep Dive Library, your go-to podcast for real talks on entrepreneurship, finance, and personal growth. No fluff, just bold insights to help you grow, build, and lead. Let's dive into.
Okay, today we are jumping right into something really fundamental, building an emergency fund. It's all about creating that essential financial cushion. Right.
Our mission is pretty simple. Cut through the noise and just give you a clear path forward on this.
Absolutely. It focuses on 5 core questions people have about this. Like, number 1, how much should I actually save in my emergency fund? Then number 2, how can I even start this if I'm living paycheck to paycheck? That's a big one.
Yeah, that comes up a lot.
Third, where should I keep the money? Savings account, somewhere else. What's the deal?
Okay.
Fourth, how long does this whole process take? You know, getting fully funded.
And managing expectations.
And finally, number 5, what's really the difference between this emergency fund and just, well, regular savings or investing?
Got it. 5 key areas. So let's kick off with the basics from that first point. What exactly is an emergency fund and why is it so critical?
Okay, so fundamentally it's just a pot of savings, but, and this is the key bit, it has a very specific job.
Right.
Its whole purpose is to act as a shield, you know, for those unexpected things life throws at you, losing your job, getting sick, maybe a disability, or just, well, bad luck, your car breaks down, the roof leaks, stuff like that.
Yeah, the curveballs. Think of it as your own personal financial defense, right? The core idea is stopping a sudden problem from immediately pushing you into debt.
Exactly. One author you sent over even called it Murphy repellent, which I kind of love.
Oh, Murphy repellent. That's good. Because if something can go wrong,
it probably will eventually. Yeah.
And the material gave some really clear examples of what counts as a real emergency for this fund. Like fixing your car if you absolutely need it for work. That counts. Paying a big medical deductible after, say, an accident. Yep. That surprise vet bill when your pet gets sick. Definitely.
Oh yeah, the vet bills. Those can hit hard. There was that story about Michael Lynch needing an RV repair, wasn't there? Having the cash immediately stopped a small issue from snowballing.
Right. Those are the kinds of things it's designed for. But the material was also super clear about what it's not for.
Important distinction.
Yeah. It's not for wants, no matter how much you want them.
Yeah.
Like using it for a down payment on a fancy leather couch? Nope. Or finally buying that motorcycle? Also, nope. You got to protect its purpose.
Protecting the purpose is crucial. Otherwise, it's just another savings account.
And you know what's interesting? The psychological impact. It's not just the money itself, it's the peace of mind.
Huge.
Quinlan shared that story, remember? A $400 vet bill felt like this massive crisis, but having just a $500 buffer, it changed everything. It went from panic to just handling it.
Right. It stops a small scare turning into a full-blown financial meltdown. That feeling of control, it's incredibly powerful.
Totally. And the flip side is pretty stark. The material pointed out that something like nearly half of Americans couldn't cover even 1 month's basic bills if they lost their income.
Wow. Yeah. That shows how many people are living without that buffer. Just no cushion at all.
And trying to use other things, like, say, a home equity line of credit for emergencies. That can be really risky.
Oh, definitely.
The material had that Ed and Sally example. If your income suddenly stops and you can't make those loan payments, well, you could actually risk losing your house.
Yeah, using assets like that introduces a whole new layer of risk. The emergency fund is meant to protect those core assets.
So it keeps you safe, keeps you out of debt, gives you peace of mind. Which brings us right back to that big question you mentioned first. How much? How much do you actually need to save?
Okay, so the sources sort of break this down. Ramit Sethi, for instance, talks about starting with a beginner emergency fund, just $1,000.
Okay, $1,000. That feels manageable, maybe?
Exactly. It's not the final destination, but it's step 1. It's enough to cover a lot of those smaller, annoying surprises without completely derailing your finances. It builds confidence, too.
Right. Proves you can do it. But that's just the start. What's the ultimate goal?
The ultimate goal for what they call a fully funded emergency fund is significantly more. We're talking 3 to 6 months worth of your essential living expenses.
Okay, 3 to 6 months of expenses. That's a range.
Huh.
So how do you decide? Is it 3 months? Is it 6?
Well, that really depends on your personal situation. It's about your risk level, you know?
Makes sense.
The general guidance is aim for the higher end, the full 6 months, if your income is less predictable. Maybe you're self-employed, or you work on commission, or you're in an industry that's a bit volatile.
Right. More instability means you need a bigger cushion.
Exactly. Now, if you have a really stable job, maybe 2 incomes in the house, perhaps fewer dependents or lower fixed costs, Then 3 months might be enough, but honestly, more is generally safer. Gives you more breathing room.
Okay, so you figure out if you're aiming for 3 or 6 months. How do you calculate what your monthly expenses actually are to get that target number?
Good question. You need to do a bit of digging. The material suggests looking back at your spending for the last month, maybe 2 months. Check your bank statements, credit card bills, receipts if you keep them.
Okay, so track everything.
Everything essential. We're talking mortgage or rent, any loan payments you have, food, transportation costs, insurance premiums, utilities, even things like property taxes or maybe estimated income tax if you're self-employed, things you absolutely have to pay to keep the lights on and a roof over your head.
Got it. Just the essentials.
And here's a really smart tip they mention. Once you've tallied up that monthly essential spending, add a little buffer, maybe 10%, perhaps 15%.
A buffer. Why?
Well, it accounts for those occasional expenses that don't hit every single month, like maybe annual insurance bills or car registration, or just costs you might have forgotten. It makes your target number more realistic, less likely to fall short when you actually need it.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Build in some wiggle room. So we know what it is, why we need it, how much to aim for. Now, for the big one you mentioned, how do you actually build it? Especially if money's really tight, like living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah, this is where it gets real for a lot of people, and the sources acknowledge, look, it feels hard right now. Rent is high, inflation's been biting, cost of living, it's tough.
Definitely.
But the key insight is mindset and just taking action are crucial. It is doable, even if you have to start really small.
So it's not about finding huge chunks of money overnight.
Not at all. The strategies boil down to starting small but being incredibly consistent. Even if it's just $50 a month or maybe $100, focus on hitting that first, the $1,000 milestone. It adds up faster than you'd think.
Consistency.
And the best way to be consistent, automate it. This was a huge recommendation. Set up an automatic transfer from your checking to your emergency savings account every single payday.
So it happens before you even see it.
Exactly. Pay yourself first, for real. If the money moves automatically, you don't have to rely on willpower quite as much. It just happens.
That sounds powerful. What else? Where else can you find the money?
Well, the other side of the coin is looking at where your money's going now, cutting unnecessary expenses.
The dreaded budget talk.
Sort of, but they framed it more as creating a conscious spending plan. Less about harsh restrictions, more about deciding intentionally where you want your money to go. Look at subscriptions you never use, maybe eating out less, that kind of thing. Make saving a priority in that plan.
Conscious spending. I like that framing. Puts you in charge.
Yeah. And don't forget windfalls. Any unexpected money that comes your way, like a bonus from work, a tax refund, maybe cash gifts for your birthday, put a good chunk, maybe even all of it, straight into the emergency fund. That can seriously speed things up.
Okay, use those surprise boosts. What about earning more?
Absolutely another lever to pull. Things like starting a side hustle, selling stuff you don't need anymore. One example mentioned selling a double-wide trailer, so it can be big or small stuff. Or maybe renting out a spare room or parking space.
Right. Any extra income helps.
Every little bit helps. And there are smaller things too, like actively using discounts and loyalty programs, trying to reduce your utility bills, electricity, water. It all adds up if you redirect those savings.
I also saw mentions of like savings challenges, making it a game almost.
Yeah, things like the 52-week challenge where you save $1 the first week, $2 the second, and so on. Or trying a no-spend month for non-essentials. Sometimes adding that structure or, game element can keep you motivated.
Okay, lots of strategies there. And a key point was protecting the fund once you start building it, right?
Crucial. Resist that temptation to dip into it for things that aren't genuine emergencies. Remember why you're building it. Protect its purpose. That discipline is really important.
Makes sense. Okay, so you're building it, maybe slowly but surely. Where should you actually keep this money? That was another key question. Savings account. Under the mattress.
Probably not under the mattress. But the absolute critical point here is the money needs to be in liquid, available cash.
Liquid. Meaning easy to get to, fast.
Exactly, especially for that first $1,000, and really for the whole fund ideally, it should not be in investments. No stocks, no bonds, no mutual funds, definitely not in your retirement accounts.
Why not? Isn't the goal usually to make your money grow?
For other goals, yes. But the emergency fund's job isn't growth, it's safety and immediate access. If your emergency hits when the stock market has just tanked, you could be forced to sell low and lose money. or it might take days to get the cash out.
Okay. You can't pay the tow truck driver with stocks that have dropped 20%.
Precisely. You need the cash, like now. So where should it be?
Right. What are the good options?
The most recommended place, overwhelmingly, is a high-yield savings account.
High-yield savings.
Okay. Other possibilities mentioned were maybe a dedicated savings wallet some banks offer, or potentially certain flexible CDs, but high-yield savings is usually the sweet spot.
Why high yield specifically? What makes them good for this?
Well, several things. First, they're flexible. Your money isn't locked up for a set term like most CDs. Second, they generally pay much better interest rates than your standard basic savings account. It won't make you rich, but it's nice that the money earns something while it sits there.
A little bit of growth is better than none.
Right. Third, they're great for keeping the money separate from your everyday checking account. They usually don't come with debit cards or checks, which helps avoid accidental spending.
So accessible when needed, but slightly inconvenient for impulse buys.
Exactly. And maybe most importantly, safety. High-yield savings accounts at reputable banks are typically FDIC insured.
FDIC. That's the government insurance, right?
Yeah, Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. It protects your deposits, usually up to $250,000 per person, per bank, per account type, even if the bank fails. So your emergency money itself is safe.
That's crucial peace of mind. And the material also stressed picking a reliable bank, maybe one with good customer service, over just chasing the absolute highest interest rate.
Definitely. That point came through clearly. The difference in interest rates between banks is often pretty small in terms of actual dollars earned each month. It's probably not worth the hassle of constantly switching banks just to gain a few extra cents. Reliability and easy access when you do need it are more important here.
Good point. Don't get lost chasing pennies.
Okay.
Okay, so we know where to keep it. Now, the question everyone wants to know, how long does it actually take to build this thing? To get to that 3 to 6 month goal?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the honest answer from all the material is there's no single answer.
It depends.
It totally depends. It varies hugely from person to person. Depends on your income, your expenses, how much debt you're juggling, and critically, how much you can consistently, realistically set aside each month.
So comparing yourself to someone else is kind of pointless.
Completely pointless. It's not a race. For some people, getting that first $1,000 might take a few months.
But
reaching the full 3 to 6 months of expenses, that could take a year, 2 years, maybe longer.
Okay.
The main thing is understanding it's a process. It takes focus, it takes consistent effort over time, but every single dollar you save is moving you in the right direction.
Yeah, it's a good way to look at it. Progress, not perfection. Okay, last big question from your list. What's the real difference between this emergency fund and, other savings or investments? Isn't it all just putting money aside?
That's a really important distinction they made. They have different jobs. The emergency fund has one specific defensive job: protect you from unexpected financial shocks, keep you out of debt, provide that immediate safety net and peace of mind.
Okay, so it's defense. What about other savings?
Your other savings accounts are usually for specific, planned goals. Maybe you're saving for a down payment on a house or a new car or a big vacation or your kid's college fund. Those are offensive goals, things you're actively working towards.
Gotcha. Defense versus offense and investing.
Investing is different again. That's primarily for long-term goals like retirement. The focus there is growth. You're typically willing to take on more risk over a long time horizon, aiming for higher returns than you'd get in a savings account.
So the strategy has to be different for the emergency fund because its job is different.
Exactly. With the emergency fund, the absolute priorities are safety and liquidity, getting your hands on the cash quickly without losing value. Growth is way down the list, almost irrelevant. It is not a tool for building wealth.
Right.
Your investment accounts, that's where you focus on growth, where you accept some risk, where liquidity isn't the number one concern because you have a long time before you need the money.
It sounds like the emergency fund is positioned as like step 0 or step 1 in a bigger financial plan.
It really is. A lot of financial plans, like the Dave Ramsey steps mentioned, put establishing that initial $1,000 emergency fund as the very first thing you do, before you even get aggressive about paying off debt.
Really? Before debt?
Yeah, because it stops you from going further into debt when the next small emergency hits, while you're trying to pay off the old debt. Then, the fully funded 3 to 6 month fund often comes a bit later, maybe after you've cleared consumer debt. It solidifies your foundation, protects the progress you've made.
It really feels like building this fund is more than just about the cash itself.
I think that's a really powerful takeaway from the material, the act of creating this emergency fund. It seems to be about more than just the dollars and cents. It's about shifting your relationship with money, taking control, building that buffer. It gives you not just financial security, but this profound sense of calm and readiness, knowing you can handle whatever life throws your way. What does that kind of peace feel like to you?
That's a fantastic thought to wrap up on, something for all of you to really consider as you think about your own emergency fund. And hey, if you found value here but haven't subscribed yet, why wait? Every subscriber fuels this channel to keep delivering the real game-changing content you need. Hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe. And OW, don't miss out on the next episode that could change everything for you.